Dan is a struggling director who has been having a lot of difficulty with his new projects. After the shoot, he approaches one of his colleagues and tells her that he is going to his cabin with his wife over the weekend. She isn't sure why he is telling her all that, but he keeps on sharing more details. He says that Lisa wanted to go for a hike all alone in the mountains. There might be a snowstorm as well, and he is scared of that. He then abruptly leaves her. He gets into his car and receives a call. He tells the man on the other end that the plan for tomorrow is still in place. He is also carrying some suspicious items with him. The man abruptly asks him if they can take out the boat after they are done. He then meets his father, Michael, who lives in a care facility, and tells him about their weekend plans. A news play on the TV about two serial killers who have escaped from prison with a federal officer. He says that he wants to take Lisa for some leisure. He says that in his time in the military, he fought hard for survival, but no one seems to be tough anymore. He wishes that he had died in war instead of rotting like a crippled old man. A nurse comes to give him his medicine, but he snaps at him and asks him to leave. He then tells Dan that he should face something terrible, and only then will he be able to find a purpose. He goes back home and hides all the supplies in the trunk. Just then, one of Lisa's friends comes out and wishes him all the best for hunting. But he has no idea what she is talking about. Lisa soon comes out with all their luggage, but she keeps on snapping at him even for the minor inconvenience. They start their journey, and Dan blasts some music. But Lisa soon turns it off as she hates it. She then takes out her script and starts reading it. Dan says that she will get the part, but Lisa isn't so sure, as the director is a theater snob. It rubs Dan the wrong way, and he says that he is a film director, and he is just as artistic as a theater director. Lisa says that he directed one film 8 years ago, and now just directs pop-up ads. He says that these ads are the ones that have kept them afloat. She struggles as a theater actor, and this is the only thing that has helped them survive. They get into an argument, and Lisa asks him to pretend to be a happy couple for once. She then apologizes and says that she wasn't trying to insult him. They finally reach the cabin, and Lisa starts to look for the key. It isn't in its usual place, but Dan asks her to check carefully. She soon finds it, and they enter the house. Dan soon goes to the basement and checks if the shotguns are still in place, as he might need them later. On his way back, he discovers cereal lying on the floor and thinks it might be the rats doing it. They soon clean up the entire space and go to cook. Dan asks Lisa if she has seen his blue sweater, but she says that she hasn't. They get into an argument again about chopping garlic. Lisa notices Dan struggling with the meat as he has a phobia of blood. She flips it with her hands and dashes out of the kitchen. They are having dinner, and Dan says that he ordered the meat specially. Lisa is not sure why he is doing all that, and he says that he just wanted to cook her favorite dish. She says that steaks are not her favorite, and it's fish. Dan thinks that she is trying to piss him off, as he has never seen her order fish at a restaurant. She says that only the South Americans make it good. He suddenly asks about Dario, Lisa's co-actor from her class. She says that he is good, and they are working on a project together. They are playing Scribble together, but get into another fight. Dan says that she just can't take a joke anymore like they used to. Lisa storms out of there, and they spend the night on their phones listening to a podcast. The next morning, as Lisa is practicing her lines, Dan takes a bag and goes towards the boat. He hides the bag in the boat and returns to the car to collect the inventory. He brings out the chloroform, but he is too scared to do it. He takes a drink, soaks the handkerchief in chloroform, and goes to Lisa. She is still practicing as he gets closer to her. But just before he can sedate her, she tasers him, and he falls unconscious. He wakes up tied to a chair. She has found the chloroform, and he says that it's just a cleaning supply. She says that he was going to knock her unconscious. She has also found the other inventories and knows very well what he was going to do. He tries to make excuses, but she leaves from there. He tries to drag his chair and gets closer to the table. He manages to get a hold of the saw, but it's broken. She comes back with a shotgun and loads it. She says that he was going to make her unconscious, then take her to the boat, tie her with rocks, and then drop her in the lake. But she isn't sure what he was going to do with the saw. He says that she has got all wrong, but she takes him at gunpoint. He finally blurts out the truth. He says that bodies can float after some time, so he was thinking about chopping her and then dumping her body. She is baffled and says that no one would believe his story that she just wandered off for a hike and never came back. She then asks why he would do something like that, and he says that he knows about her affair with Dario. He saw her hooking up with Dario at a party that he was in as well. Lisa says that killing and dismembering her for infidelity is extreme. She then says that he hasn't touched her in 2 years and shows her no love. He snaps and says that all she does is criticize him and make him feel small. He wanted someone who would support him like a wife. She snaps back and says that he is a toddler living inside a grown man's body. She is done with his temper tantrums and his plan sucks. On the other hand, her plan is foolproof. Yesterday, she had a friend over and told her that Dan wants to go hunting, but she hates guns and will stay in the cabin. Just then, Henry comes there and keeps on looking at her ominously. She tells him that she will send him the money later on, and he leaves. Lisa tells her friend that Henry used to be friends with Dan, and since he lost his job, they have been helping him with petty work. Soon, Dan shows up there, and on her way, her friend asks him to stay safe while hunting. Her story is that he was adamant about going hunting, but she didn't want to join. The safety was off on the gun, which caused it to misfire, and that's how he died. He says that she is mean, but she says that he was trying to kill her first. Dan says that he was going to sedate her, and she wouldn't have felt any pain. He then says that no one would believe her story as she is a terrible actress. She is stiff, and her theatrical bullshit is not going to work with the cops. He gets a rise out of her, and she says that he is no better. He then starts to cry and acts out what exactly he is going to do. Lisa does the same, and they break out in a competition, but Dan takes the win as he is the one who is able to drop a tear. Lisa rage quits and smashes his nose with the gun. She is about to kill him, but just then, Henry appears there. Dan tries to ask him to hit Lisa with a hammer, but he doesn't get the clue. After a lot of attempts, he finally knocks her out with a hammer. The story then shifts 5 days earlier when Charlie and Dan were at a theme park hatching their plan. He tells Charlie that he needs to chop off the body and dispose of it. Lisa is insured for $100,000, and after they get the money, he will get half of it. Charlie says that he would like to have it in writing, but Dan says that he is insane and will do no such thing. Henry ties Lisa up with a chair, and she wakes up soon as well. She snaps the tape in a second, so Henry has to tie her again. Dan then asks her why she wanted to kill him. She says that he is weak and insecure. He forced her to quit her job and focus on acting, but after that, he never offered her a movie. He then gambled their car and house, and it's because of him that they are drowning in debt. Henry suddenly jumps in between and says that Dan can pay the debt with the insurance money after killing her. Dan tries to stop him, but he goes on. Lisa finally knows that Dario was not the reason. Henry says he will also get half of the money, which is $50,000. Lisa is baffled and tries to tell him something, but Dan wraps a plastic bag around her head and stops her. She slowly starts to lose her breath, but suddenly Henry points the gun at him and asks him to free her. He is shocked but has no other option but to comply. Lisa finally catches her breath and says the insurance is for $1 million and that Dan lied to him. She asks Charlie to kill Dan, and she will give him half of the share. They start negotiating, and Dan offers him the boat as well. Lisa says that she will set him up with one of her friends, and he agrees. Dan jumps on him, and they get into a scuffle. Lisa, in the meantime, manages to cut herself loose. The gun falls on the ground, and both of them grab it together. They try to secure it for themselves, but accidentally fire it, which kills Charlie. Lisa says that he is the one who pulled the trigger, but Dan says she was the one pointing it at him. She disarms him and runs, but Dan follows him upstairs as well. He tries to shoot her, but there are no bullets left. He smacks her with it and proceeds to load it. She manages to stab him in the leg, and their battle continues. She grabs the gun and runs to the bedroom. He jumps on her, and they accidentally shoot at the roof. Someone suddenly starts to scream from the attic, and 3 people fall from there on top of the couple. It's none other than the 3 fugitives, Pete, Todd, and Allegra. The couple lies there unconscious. 3 days earlier, they escaped from the prison and were hiding in the woods. One fine day, they came across the cabin. They managed to find the key and enter the house. Todd was having cereals, which was the reason it was all over the floor. They were being hunted by the cops, and they decided to take refuge at the cabin. Ally was also wearing Dan's sweater, which is why he couldn't find it. They were settling in when suddenly the couple showed up. Todd says that they should kill them, but Pete says that it will attract more eyes. Ally finds a way to the attic. They gather all their stuff and hide in the attic while keeping an eye out on the couple. Ally feels like peeing and has no other way, so she pees in a can. She is getting bored and decides to play charades with Todd. She tries to explain to him about her favorite movie, but he is a complete nuthead. Just then, they find Henry coming to the cabin. They get back to their game, but soon they find the couple fighting in the bedroom. They accidentally fire the gun and shoot Todd in his, but he causes a ruckus, and they fall from the attic. They tie the couple in the basement. The couple wakes up, and the fugitives introduce themselves while having a sandwich. Pete says that they saw everything that transpired, and now the couple is at their mercy. Dan asks them what they want. Pete says that he and Todd were wards of the state for the past 7 years. Allegra jumps in and says that she was a corrections officer there, and they fell in love, although Pete doesn't seem to be supporting the statement. He then says that they need cash to move forward. Dan says that he has some cash in his wallet. Pete says that he doesn't need petty cash, and they need a bulk of money. Lisa says that they don't have any money, as Dan has spent every dime that they had. They get into an argument, and Pete takes out his knife. Ally jumps in and says that she has a better plan. She asks Todd to draw a circle. She then frees Dan from his shackles and says that she has a story to share. They used to get really bored sitting in prison, and that's when Ally came up with a game. Every night, they will go to the laundry room and drag a couple of roommates with them. They would put Todd with one mates inside a circle and ask who would violate whom first. Dan is horrified as he finds Todd taking off his clothes. Pete says that he doesn't have to participate if he just tells them where they keep their money. Dan swears that do not have any money left. Ally says that she has had enough, and Todd begins the game. He is way too strong, but Dan punches him in his wound and gets out of the circle. Pete says that leaving the circle means losing the game. Todd drags him over to the pool table and gets ready to force himself on Dan. Pete stops him just then and asks why he has that movie poster on the wall. Dan says that he was the director of the film. Pete jumps in excitement and says that it's his favorite film, and he used to watch it multiple times while in prison. He says that he didn't like the ending of the movie. Dan says that he had a different ending, but the producers didn't like enough, and he was forced to change it. Pete says that he should stick to his original choice for his next film. Dan thinks that he might be safe, but they force him again. But Todd soon stops and says that he is just not aroused. They throw Dan on the ground and get ready to kill him. Todd is about to shoot him when Lisa asks them to stop. She says that she has 50 grand that she had saved. They just have to wait till next morning, and she will take them to the bank and give them the money. Evening dawns, and the perpetrators get back to doing their own things. The couple is tied down in the basement. Lisa wonders how they got into this mess. They used to love each other, and she thought that they would be inseparable, but things fell apart. She doesn't even like Dario, but she just hooked up with him to know if Dan would fight for her. She apologizes for everything and says that they are both gonna die. Just then, Dan notices a pool ball, and something comes to his mind. Pete hatches a plan and says that they are going to take the money, kill the couple, and make a run. They are going to ditch the car on the way. But this makes Ally furious, and she insists that the car has been nothing but helpful to them. Dan says it's a trashy car, and they wouldn't need it. Ally says that he disposes of everything once he can't get something put of them. They get into an argument, and she walks out of there. Dan screams from the basement, and Todd goes to check him out. He says that he needs to take a dump, and Pete allows him. Todd says that if he tries anything, he will kill him. He then frees Dan and takes him to the washroom. He removes the lid from a flush, and Dan gets inside. Finding Lisa alone, he approaches her. He then starts to smell her creepily. Soon, Dan gets out, and he notices that he doesn't have his socks. Dan knocks him out with the sock, as it has the pool ball inside. He asks Lisa to wait there, as he will find a weapon and get back to free her. Ally is upset with Pete, so he gets frisky with her. Seizing the opportunity, Dan escapes from there. Lisa finds a knife nearby and frees herself with it. The couple is fooling around and doesn't notice that Lisa has gotten out of the basement with the life. Pete calls for Todd, but he doesn't answer. They go down to the basement and find him unconscious. He finally wakes up and says that Dan knocked him out with a sock, leaving them perplexed. They hear Lisa running out of the house and follow her. She hides behind a car as they keep looking for her. They separate and go out in the woods to hunt the couple down. Lisa looks for a car key inside, but it isn't there, making her go back to the cabin. Todd loses the battery in his torch and goes back inside as well. She is grabbing the keys when Todd takes her at gunpoint. She is naked to drop the knife, and does so. She offers him the money, but he says that the deal is now out of the window after they knock him out. Dan, on the other hand, the commotion and slowly gets inside the cabin. Lisa suddenly says that she is 12 weeks pregnant. She couldn't say anything earlier as the baby is from her affair partner. Dan doesn't know anything about it as she didn't want to hurt him. She begs him not to kill her child, and he says that he will not shoot her in the belly. Instead, he gets ready to shoot her in the head, but just then, Dan jabs a trophy on his back. But he isn't affected by it, and jumps at Dan. Lisa tries to save him, but gets kicked as well. The couple gets thrashed badly. For a moment, Lisa manages to take him down, but he soon gets the upper hand and starts to choke her. Dan gets up to save her, but he starts to choke him as well. Lisa stabs him in the back, but he is too strong to be affected by it. She then takes the entire set of knives and stabs him one by one, but he is inhumanely strong. He is about to kill Lisa when Dan jabs the trophy at his head. He then picks up the gun and is about to aisle Todd, but he is gone. They take the boat key and are about to leave when they hear the couple walking in and hide upstairs. They discover Todd's body, and Ally swears to kill the couple. They hide inside the wardrobe as Pete keeps looking for them. They are sitting there in silence when Dan says that she is right. He didn't fight for them. He felt like a failure, and he gave up on their relationship. He gives her the boat key and asks her to run. He heard her talking about a pregnancy, and she should save the baby. But Lisa says that she was just bluffing. She had to stall Todd, and just came up with a lie. Dan is stunned and says that it was the best performance of her life. Pete gets into the room and hears them talking in the cupboard. He is ready to shoot them, but Dan bursts through the door and jumps him. Lisa runs from there, and Dan runs soon as well. The can of piss falls on Pete. Lisa gets out, but Ally knocks her down with a gun. Dan jumps her from behind and gets ready to leave. But Pete bursts through the window and attacks Dan. He keeps on smashing his head when Lisa jabs him with a rake. She slowly backs away, but Todd appears there as he is still alive. He grabs a knife around her throat, and Pete drags Dan by his hair. He then jabs the rake on Dan's hand. He says that he has killed many people via various methods, but he has never tried to crush someone's head in a lawnmower. He then turns on the lawnmower and gets ready to deface Dan. Lisa watches in horror as Dan loses his finger. Suddenly, a sports car comes there in full force and drives over Pete. Michael gets out of the car. The story shifts back 6 hours earlier. A man was passing by the cabin when he found some people inside. He calls Michael because they are old friends. He says that he was passing by the house and believes some people might be staying there. Michael immediately disconnects the call and runs out. He tells the nurse that his son might be in trouble and he needs to go and save them. The nurse tries to stop him, but Michael beats him up and takes his key. He then took his car and rushed to their rescue. Ally immediately runs to Pete. Todd warns him not to get any closer or he will kill her. But Michael blows his head off. He gets ready to kill Pete, but Ally stabs him from behind. Michael shoots her in the leg. Pete says that it's time for him to die, but Michael bites his nose off. Pete thrashes him, but Michael asks Dan to run. Both of them get into the car as Pete drags Michael to the lawnmower and defaces him. They drive away as Pete keeps on shooting at them. One of the bullets hit the car, and they crash into a tree. Dan wakes up and wakes Lisa up as well. She is horrified as a chunk of her hair is gone. Dan puts it back on and says that she looks lovely. He then asks her to take the keys to the boat and run. Ally is quivering in pain when Pete goes to her and says that he is breaking up with her. He says that he never even liked her and was just using her to get out of jail. He walks away from there as she keeps on cussing him. He goes to the car, but it's empty as Lisa has already made her way to the dock. Alui gets back to the cabin and grabs a bottle of alcohol. She pours it on her leg and wraps up her wound. Just then, Dan gets there and breaks her leg. He points the gun at her and she begs him to stop. When that doesn't work, she threatens him, saying that she is K-op. But Dan soon blows her head off. Lisa tries to turn the boat on but can't. She finally manages to start it, but Pete has managed to be there as well. Dan runs towards the dock, but the boat has already sailed. He grabs the rope and jumps into the water. Lisa sees Dan and keeps on blabbing nonsense to distract Pete. He threatens to kill her if she doesn't give him the money. But just then, Dan gets there and bashes his head. All of them get into a scuffle again, but Pete is too strong for them to handle. Lisa grabs a flare gun but misfires it. He is ready to kill her, but Dan gets up and asks him to stay away from his wife. He is ready to fight, but throws up on the boat. Dan again starts to beat him up when Lisa wraps the rock-filled bag around his neck. She then jabs his leg with the anchor and throws him in the lake. He swims up one last time, but slowly drowns because of the weight. But the anchor gets wrapped around Dan's legs as well, and he falls into the water. Lisa tries to save him, but it's getting hard. He asks her to let him go, but she isn't ready to lose him. She finally pulls him up on the boat, and they finally hug. Dan is sitting by the dock when Lisa joins him. She gives him back his fingers, and they apologize for trying to murder each other. He says that he still has a lot of debt, but Lisa assures him that she has a plan. The cops soon get there, and they set a false narrative. They say their house was invaded by some criminals, and they fought together to defeat them. The news spread like wildfire, and they were invited to Andy Cohen. They tell him they could survive the tragedy because of their love. Andy reveals that they are making a big movie with this story, and Dan will be directing it. He says that he has cast Lisa in the role, and they will finally get to work together. Andy says that the films will be released digitally, which pisses them off. They soon begin filming, and Kumail Nanjiani is playing Dan's role. The couple is almost shown like a superhero duo fighting the bad guys. The couple have finally found their way back to each other. You were watching a recap of the 2026 film, Over Your Dead Body. Hit the like button if you have enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel and get notified about our next video. Till then, you may also like this.